The philosophy of Hanse Haus is that if you can make it in advance, to the non-detriment of the overall product, if you can make it in the factory in advance, you do so. So we take that to the extent of having often 13-metre long walls, which are complete almost, that are then being craned into position. And when I say complete almost, I mean with windows in, with doors in, external doors anyway, with the first coat of render, and with plasterboard on and vapour barriers, etc. So it's quite a sight to see an entire side of a building being craned into position.
Once the pieces had been manufactured, they were loaded onto trucks and they were driven across Europe to the port of St Malo, which is our closest port here in Guernsey, and they were driven onto a ferry and at St Malo and driven off in Guernsey.
The house was delivered at the beginning of June, exactly as had been said in a contract, so to contract, and in the end the price was exactly as per contract as well. And for us, being busy people, those were the two things that concerned us most, the biggest risk. And so that was perfect, exactly what we wanted.
By the end of day one, I think we'd had, the first floor was in. By the end of day two, the ceiling was in, and by the end of day three, the roof was on. So pretty exciting and very, very quick for it all to happen.
So each piece was literally brought around one at a time, which is very exciting because you can sort of finally see the bits of the house that that you've been imagining over a long period of time.
We've got a garden on various different levels, so we stood up on the top level and watched it for 10 days. It was really exciting.
When the Hanse Haus guys got started, I think it was the first week, we had complaints from the neighbours because they turned up and started working too early in the morning, which is always, from my perspective, a very good thing to know your builders are on site at 7 o'clock, ready to get going and just sort of cracking on.
And they worked like beavers for 10 working days to construct the house and put all these pieces up.
By lunchtime, the whole of the bottom part of the house was already up, and by sort of the evening, the second part of the house was going up. And in fact, I phoned my daughter and said, well, if you're going to come and see the house being built, you need to come tomorrow, because if not, you won't see it being done.
We were concerned that the weather might get in the way of the build, but it never did. Whatever the weather threw at Hanse Haus, they just worked right the way through it, and we had it up in 10 days.
We did take time-lapse camera of it, and it's almost unimaginable that a house can be put up from sort of start to finish. And certainly the house was watertight by the Friday. So I think on the Friday the roof was on.
Each house is very, very different in terms of the duration of the build. Some houses have been built in 8 weeks, very, very quick, very, very straightforward. Often quite small houses can be built very quickly, but very complex, often very geometrically fiddly, and large houses can take a little bit longer. So it's very difficult to say that, to give a pure average. But what we say is that a 16-week programme, 12 to 16 weeks, is fairly normal.
All the flooring was down, all the lighting was in, all the bathrooms were done in less than 12 weeks. The
whole process into what Hanse Haus were involved in was very, very smooth and very, very easy. We did use a UK builder, and those things weren't quite as smooth. And I guess if there's something I would have done differently, I would have used Hanse Haus for absolutely everything rather than subbing a couple of the jobs out to a local builder. Because everything that Hanse Haus say they will do to a deadline, they meet those deadlines.